Badlands. Explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
Mr. Vice President, I'm going off script again, I know, but I just want to personally thank you. We've been through some stuff. We've gone through some of the most complex military operations this country's ever conducted, and your steady hand and your leadership during those was a great source of strength for me. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your character. Thank you for your selfless service. Thank you for commitment. Thank you for being a mentor to me, Mr. Vice President.
It's called the swamp. And you know what happened? And you know what I did? A big favor. I caught the swamp. I caught them all. Let's see what happens. Nobody else could have done that but me. I caught all of this corruption that was going on, and nobody else could have done it. Did I get that one right?
Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Wednesday edition of the Devolution Power Hour. I'm back. Some of you maybe didn't even notice I was gone, but for those who did, I'm back from my little vacation. I gotta say, man, totally checked out. The most I've checked out probably ever, and it was fantastic. I have no idea what's going on since I left. We left Saturday. So yeah, no idea. Iran war, no idea.
Yep.
News, no idea. My headspace right now is just in such a good place. So can't wait for you to mess it all up.
Yeah, I mean, I was saying before the show that this is like a very fitting. We talk about some of this stuff every week, psyops, etc. But the Iran war really it takes the cake for me in terms of the story being that nothing makes sense and that everything is fake. Nothing has changed. I'll show you some. We've got some clips. We've got some headlines. Just to catch you up on the brief sort of bicameral that's going on right now is Donald Trump has announced that we won the war in Iran, so that's good for you to know.
But it's still going on.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I would say that Trump says it's quote very complete. That was yesterday.
Okay.
It's still like going to keep going on, and there's a lot of bombing to come and a lot of more war happening. But otherwise, we have both won and it's very complete. And also, even though there are 2 weeks of bombings scheduled, we are told, he did tell Axios today that we ran out of things to bomb. So all good to know, I think. All good news for you to come back to.
Yeah, that's great. That's great news. I'm sure people are still upset or cheering on.
It's just about everything. Only at us. Like they're not people in Badlands, out Badlands, wherever are just extremely upset at the people who think that perhaps a fifth generation war is being fought with fifth generation war tactics.
That's a bold statement, Bernie.
It's crazy. Yep, but I'm sticking to it.
Crazy. Okay, well, I can't wait to go through those clips. Right. I did hear there was an election story. I didn't even finish reading it. I was like, you know what? I got about a couple paragraphs in and it said, I'm going to go cold turkey tonight because that's what you deserve. For once, you're going to have to dictate and direct the whole show while keeping it under like hour and a half, 2 hours, Yeah,
I can't do that part of it. But
be respectful.
I'm not much of an elections guy in terms of election stories, but I'm vaguely aware of a couple election stories this week.
Yeah, the big one I want to talk about, which you should bring up, is the FBI raiding Arizona or Maricopa County. I think that is notable, even though I don't know any of the details. So we should get into that. Trump did not issue his new national resilience strategy, so that hasn't changed. That's like one of the only things I Googled when I got back. It's like, you know what, maybe while I was gone, he finally issued that damn thing. But nope. So that sucks. But anyway, yeah, I was in Legoland and Peppa Pig World this weekend, the last couple days, just tearing it up.
Like a British pig? Is that what that is?
I guess, yeah, I think he's British. I don't think it's American. Like if you cut him up and cook him up, it's probably more like closer to Canadian bacon than it is American bacon.
City of London, we're being told everything ties back to. So
maybe I was actually doing comms the whole time. But yeah, it was it's a good time. If you have kids under the age of like 8 or 9, highly recommend. They absolutely loved it. It was pretty easy going for me.
Nice.
So it's good stuff.
Is Legoland a part of like the big parks, or is it its own thing?
No, it's like its own. Like Legoland and Peppa Pig World are connected to each other. They're their own thing. They have like a hotel on the property, and then like just across the street is this little like Legoland resort, where it's just like a bunch of condos, and we were in those. And they had like a pool there, and yeah, it was really good. And then the Universal stuff, gosh, it was like an hour away or something. That was pretty cool. We went and just walked around there for a little bit. We didn't like go on any of the rides. And then yesterday also, we stopped by at the Oak McCulloch skiff. Like we went to their place and hung out on the beach. And no, it was great. It was no, they have a really nice place. Really nice views. They let us use their pool. It was just so cool of them. So
Great.
yeah, it was a great little vacation. Kids loved it.
Is their pool area fenced in?
It is. But I know the code now. So if anybody wants it, I will be selling that code to anybody who wants access to the McCullough pool.
Decoding
I would never do that.
The McCullough pool.
No, they're great people. Very awesome of them. It's nice to see them again. And nice of them to host us. They were the hostess with the mostest, you might say. Yeah, man, very excited to talk about whatever tonight. So how about we do this? Let's get a quick word from our sponsors. Probably going to be a little rusty. That's expected, I think. I'm pretty much rusty every episode I do anyway, so no change there. And then
I didn't
you can
want to
just
sponsor tonight because I figured that you would be rusty. So
Did you see the ad read I did for Saturday show? That was fantastic, I thought. I didn't butcher a single word.
I didn't see it, but I did trust that you said you read it. So
I thought you were in the chat.
No, I wasn't in the chat Saturday.
Yeah, you were.
Oh yeah, I was later on with the I was getting screenshots. You're right. Jeez.
Yeah. So you did see that.
Where did the week go?
So you're lying to me.
I suppose I did.
I've
did seen so many of them this week. So, it's like dime a dozen at this point.
Yeah, just buying that many ad spaces.
Yeah.
I did see that you got one single review on Amazon, which was enough to catapult you to number 1 on the leaderboard.
You know what is funny is back, I used to live this shit in the publishing industry, and there are so many strategies of what you do, and one of the big things you do as a indie author is get a street team together. So you get like reviews to populate on the product page within the first 24, 48 hours, add some social proof there. And with this, I was like, I am not doing any of the stuff I learned in the publishing industry. I am just going to put the book out and tell people about it. And, I asked people for reviews. If you guys did buy the book and enjoy it on Amazon or Audible, do leave a review, please, and a rating, because it actually does help. But, I didn't try to do that. I was like, you know what? We're not going to play any algorithm games or anything like that. We're just going to put this shit out there. It's evergreen, too. It'll be there forever. And,
so are you the only review? Was it?
No, that was a real, just organic review. Somebody got in there like right away. Because there's some people that obviously have read the print book that came out like 6 months ago. But then there's a lot of people that are like, yeah, I'll review it. And I'm like, well, a lot of you, except for one person, are definitely lying because there's only one there.
Do you accept negative reviews?
No,
or
I
only
do not
5 stars?
I do not accept negative reviews.
Because I'm happy to review it for you. Consider I haven't read it yet, though. I will read that someday.
Yeah. Pro tip is if you want to help a brother out and you did purchase the book from one of those platforms, your account reviewing it, the account that purchased the book reviewing the book, is very algorithmically advantageous. Because one of the mistakes a lot of authors make back in the old publishing world is they'll get their street teams together, but Amazon kind of got wise to that. They're like, well, these aren't really customers who are reviewing a product that they paid money for. So that's also part of why I was like, I'm not going to mess around with any of that. I'm just going to let it do what it did. But I am kicking, or rather, the Badlands audience is helping the audio version kick the shit out of George Orwell today. I have passed a George Orwell book for one day.
The one review?
No, it's not the review. That's based on sales rank.
Oh, nice.
So that's how things are ranked on Amazon. Yeah.
Good for you, man.
Yeah, I mean.
Anyway, well,
however many people were buying Orwell on March 11th.
You should put that in like your bio.
Yeah.
March 11th, #1 best-selling author for the dystopian subtopic on Amazon.
We don't have to get into all the subcategories and what it is. It technically beating George Orwell and #1 bestseller. We don't have to get into the caveats.
Well, I like to be specific. You know me. So anyway, let's do this. We're going to get to our sponsors, and then you're going to start walking me through the happenings of everything I missed that I need to know about this last week. And first up, we have Plastagon. Microplastics aren't somewhere out there anymore. They're here. They're in your kitchen, your tap water, your household dust. And now research is finding them in places no one ever imagined. Human blood, lungs, even in breast milk. These particles don't wait. They don't ask for permission. They build up quietly day after day inside real people. And the youngest among us, our children, are being exposed every day. And yet most parents have no idea how much they are invading our kids' bodies. Have you ever considered having your children tested? Plastiproof changes that. It's the world's first at-home saliva test for microplastics. No needles, no clinic, no stress. A simple sample you collect at home and send to a certified lab located in the U.S. And yes, children can take the test too. You get a clear science-based report detailing levels found in the body and how they entered the blood, whether that's food, air, or from medical. It's your baseline and your starting point to make changes towards a healthier lifestyle, because once you know your exposure, you can finally take some action. Plastagon is a simple, gentle homeopathic patch designed to help your body detox from the microplastics. Peel it, stick it, forget it. It's an easy, intentional step you can take every single day as you work to reduce environmental exposure. Together, Plastiproof and Plastagon can help families move from uncertainty to clarity and from worry to action. Badlanders, you can get $40 off with code BADLANDS40. Visit Plastagon.com today. That's Plastagon.com. Code BADLANDS40 for $40 off. All right, man. We'll start with that.
All right. I'm only going to play one tiny clip. Chris Paul sent this over to the Badlands chat, and this should catch you up. This is the big news. Breaking.
Well, it's only good if you win. You know, you can only do. And we've won. Let me tell you, we've won. You know, you never like to say too early you won. We won. We won the bet. In the first hour, it was over.
So, kind of double breaking news there.
Wow.
Not only did we win as of March 11th, Wednesday, March 11th, it turns out we won like
in the first hour.
10 days ago, whatever this was. Yeah, like I don't remember when this started, a week and a half ago.
It started Friday night, not this last Friday, but the Friday before.
Right.
It's been going on a week and a half.
10 days, 12 days, something like that. Yeah, we won immediately. So being a little facetious, I want to add little context from a couple other headlines, and there are many more like this.
Before you do that, even, I did see, I don't know when I saw this, might have been over the weekend, or maybe it was in our Badlands chat or something, but Trump also said something about Europe. It's like, it's a little too late, Europe. I mean, who cares if you join the war after it's already won? Like he said that we already won a couple days ago. You missed that? How did I?
Well, I have been writing about Europe a lot, but I didn't see that quote. But we will get into that, because I think that, you know, I'm not just going to call everything fake tonight. I am going to call the war fake, but I think that the fake war is very, very important and a masterstroke on many actual layers of reality. But I just wanted to show two more quotes and headlines just in line with that video there. Okay. So I've written about some of this stuff in the Badlands brief this week, but we had one from CBS. Trump says, quote, "The war is very complete," and he's considering taking over the Strait of Hormuz. Trump said, quote, "If you look, they have nothing left. There's nothing left in a military sense. I think the war is very complete, pretty much," the president said. Iran has no navy, no communications. They've got no air force. Their missiles are down to a scatter. Their drones are being blown up all over the place, including the manufacturing of drones. And then this was from today, from Axios. This one made a lot of news. Trump tells Axios there's, quote, "practically nothing left to target. Little this and little that. Anytime I want to end it, it will end," Trump said during a 5-minute call. And there's other directions to go in with this, but for the start here, okay, so this is the Europe one.
Yeah.
UK.
We don't need people that join wars after we've already won.
Another double com right there. I've been working all week on an article just about how Donald Trump is communicating about this stuff. Because if you were ever going to get on board, it's crazy that we still have to get people on board with this, as we said at the intro for the show. Whatever you think is real or not, if you ever were to get on board with the idea that Donald Trump is engaged in narrative warfare all the time, I would like you to look at anything Donald Trump has said at all to anyone this week about Iran. Because whatever you think is or is not going on in Iran, Donald Trump is telling you opposite things in back-to-back interviews constantly. And one of the trends I've noticed out of this Iran war that I think is really interesting and goes in line with a grand thesis I'm beginning to put together is usually we see Trump do something like the first clip Chris sent over where he's at a rally, he's at some sort of event, maybe he's outside the White House, he's giving comments to the media, and then those quotes tend to be disseminated throughout the battle space, right? We get all the media reacting to it, we get social media reacting to it, and then we get a million headlines about what Trump said. That's not what's going on this week. What I've noticed is Trump, and this was last week too, Trump is giving exclusive interviews to everyone in the mainstream media.
Except us.
And they're releasing these interviews like on consecutive days. So this morning, Axios went live with their exclusive, and then all the media reports on that. A few days ago, it was, this other outlet, then it was The Atlantic, then it was AP, right? And that, it's not that Trump never gives exclusive interviews, but what I think is so fascinating about it in the context of the fog of war right now is Trump will be live, like in that video, saying something, while the media he granted an exclusive interview to an hour before is printing a headline of him being quoted as an opposite thing. So the funny thing is, as evidenced by these headlines, the media is finally starting to pick up on the fact that their narrative doesn't make any sense because they're publishing exclusive by Donald Trump, who doesn't make any sense right now. So Axios, this is the same day on the same masthead that Axios is running a Trump headline about the war being over. They say Trump's Iran war messaging is all over the map. And then we have The Atlantic. Trump can't decide whether the Iran war is still going on. And so obviously they're picking up on this stuff. And I think that there's a strategy here that we can get into. But I think the baseline is that, man, we're used to Trump kind of playing with the media, and we're used to fifth-gen warfare and the fog of war. But man, I don't think I've ever seen it like this. I don't think I've seen it where the entire global mind is basically utterly convinced of the opposite of what Donald Trump is saying, including his own base. There's nobody in his own base that is taking what he is saying word for word at face value, because unless the war is not what we're being shown it is, then he's bold-faced lying in every interview he's giving.
Yeah.
So it's put MAGA in a bit of a conundrum, I think, in a funny way.
This is great. It's the discombobulator, like in real time. That's what we're witnessing. And shout out to Ty in the chat. Thank you for gifting those subs. Appreciate you, man. Looking forward to seeing you in just a few weeks at GART. But yeah, this is fantastic. We talk about this style of good cop, bad cop from Trump all the time. Chris, he's the lightning rod he goes from one end of one issue to the other. And maybe, just maybe, when it comes to navigating the info war, when he's operating like this and you have no idea what the hell is actually going on, because nobody has any idea what the hell is actually going on, when you can admit that, the way to operate within that is based on your first principles. Because it makes zero sense for anybody to be advocating for a war and cheering on a war when Trump is saying that the war's already won, there's nothing left to bomb. If he says there's nothing left to bomb, who's going to be cheering for bombing? What are we bombing then? I did see there was something that came out, like, and I don't know if this is definitive or not, but everybody's trying to hammer Trump on the girls' school or whatever, the kids that got blown up. I don't know if we've got any definitive answer on that while I was gone. But yeah, man, this is classic Trump. This is the psychological warfare. He is all over the map, and he's giving something to everybody, and then he's also taking that away immediately. And so you can't decide whether you're for or against this, because Trump can't set it for you. It's everywhere. So you have to literally decide for yourself. You can't let Trump think for you in these instances. And it's perfect. Absolutely. I love this. I love it when he does this.
What you basically just said is the whole premise of what I've been writing this week, is that essentially I've written many times, and many of us have talked about kind of dueling Trump narratives, right? There'll be like, there's all these different ways to interpret what he's doing and what he's saying. But I don't know that we've ever seen a storyline where in real time, Donald Trump's narratives are dueling with Donald Trump. And where again, in real time, you've got an exclusive hit The Atlantic and an exclusive hit Axios that say the opposite things.
Yeah.
From the same guy. And again, this isn't a case of the media's lying. This is Donald Trump as being quoted to them. And I totally agree with you. One of the ways I would frame it is to say, like, Donald Trump is usually, you and Chris talk about the Overton window and kind of like, again, those two, the bicameral nature of it and how he sidesteps the narrative and all that.
The good cop, bad cop on the same issues. Yeah.
Yeah. With this, it's like Trump is the whole Overton window right now. If you want to operate from the perspective that every single thing you are seeing on social media, in viral clips, and in viral headlines about the actuals in Iran, you can follow Donald Trump and believe that because he is telling you we hit them harder than anybody's ever hit them. We're bombing this, we're bombing that. We're going to go into the Strait of Hormuz right after we're not going to. You get to have that narrative. If you want to say, you know what, I think Donald Trump may be executing a masterstroke of narrative disarmament here, and that nothing actually needed to be happening of what we're told is happening in the way we're told it's happening, and Trump would be operating the same way. You get to have that too. And usually he's not deploying, I think, both of those as obviously at the same time. But, I guess, and I'll show one more quote here. I like to use Zero Hedge not just as an aggregator, but they're my example of like, so close that they're so far. They take themselves, I call them alt media. Like they're not MAGA, but they're not mainstream media. I think they are earnestly trying to figure out what's going on. Yeah. There are also many international writers. Like they're not globalists, they're not Americans, but they make the cardinal mistake of not taking Donald Trump seriously as like a psychological combatant. So they basically are one of those, there's a lot of Con Inc. like this, where they
take him at face value.
They take him at face value, and they don't think there's an underlying strategy to the things he does. They think he's reactive, right? Even though they tend to like him. So anyway, I thought that this opening of this article they published yesterday was telling. It remains increasingly difficult to interpret President Trump or to take his words at face value, especially when it comes to back and forth with reporters on the Iran war and future aims and plans.
Hold on, pause for a second.
Yeah.
We have a new Ayatollah now?
We were told that the Iranians chose a new Ayatollah. He has not been seen. We don't know. It's the new Khomeini, the little Khomeini, which was what we said.
The best regime change possible is one where the regime doesn't change at all.
Exactly.
That's insane. Okay.
And that would be the same smaller Khomeini that Donald Trump said, I'll be damned if we have another Khomeini in there after we're done. That's not going to be what's happening. So, hey, Chris was saying like maybe they'll swap him out too, but
we're also told that every possible leader has been taken out, except for his son, the direct successor.
Yeah, not the direct successor. Everybody else.
It's so
yeah.
funny.
So, and he's a hardliner. Don't forget. So, like, we're not out of the woods yet of the war we won.
And I also know before I left that Paul V guy, the guy who's been like trying to get back in there, is he said that right. I have accepted the nomination. It's like, okay, who nominated you, bro? Is it Pavli?
I think it's Pahlavi.
Pahlavi, yeah, that's so funny. So funny.
Yeah,
then,
so
me and Chris talked about this on Saturday. It's like, yeah, everybody's cheering on freedom for Iran, but we're gonna be the ones that choose who your leader is. So it's not quite the freedom we've been cheering for.
We're not going to choose the leader, John. We're just going to destroy the leader if it's the wrong one. And we're going to keep doing that until it's the right one. You see how we're not holding the elections for you. We're just killing everyone you elect until we stop killing them.
Democracy.
That's democracy.
Yeah.
That's some classic democracy.
That's our democracy.
The reason I wanted to point out that quote from Zero Hedge the face value quote. You just said it to lead into that, which was funny. I'm not trying to like go off on people. I'm just, it has genuinely been shocking to me to see the responses, not to what the storylines are and not to what Trump is saying. It is shocking to me that this is the storyline where many of the truth community has chosen to say that the way people like me and Chris, perhaps in particular, about narrative, but increasingly you, because you used to talk about narrative a little bit and as part of your series, and now it's you talk about that mostly too, because it's obvious that even if you do believe that there's these real kinetic events going on, the narrative that is translating those events to everybody is at the very least under duress, changing constantly, and specifically Trump. We are getting a lot of pushback about literally, quote, not taking Trump at face value. And if you are taking Trump at face value
It's retarded.
at this stage of the game, you just are not doing it right. I can't be any more objective about what should be a subjective statement there. And
Well,
I think...
I don't think anybody in
Yeah.
our audience does. I mean, we've been saying
That's true.
That's one of the taglines of my damn daily show is you can never take Trump at face value. So you're retarded if you do that. Our audience, I don't think, has made that mistake. I mean, maybe sometimes they've made that mistake when they get real mad at us for us not doing it, but them, doing it. That gets silly. But you're absolutely right. You cannot take Trump at face value. He's the only one that we know for certain is doing psychological warfare all the time. Like the only one that we can say with 100% certainty is doing psyops all the time. And so there's no reason to ever take what he says at face value. And he's proved it time and time again.
And what's particularly crazy about that, or the fact that that needs to be explained to some people, and you're right, I know that most of our audience is here because they understand that.
Yeah.
The thing that's crazy about it is you don't have to have ever heard of a Q drop or believe that, you don't even have to believe that there's any kind of special military operations, psychological operations going on. You could just not be a total fucking idiot and understand that world leaders, when navigating geopolitical crises, lie every second of every day, and often for the benefit of their own people or their operators in the region, right? Like, if we were involved in a real, very real kinetic operation with special operators on the ground in Tehran right now, and Donald Trump said that in a news conference, the military would be furious that he said that, because obviously it's not something that you say if they're sensitive operations, right? At least you don't say it at the beginning, and it should be obvious there. But I think Trump, if there's a good way of looking at what he's doing here, part of it is he's making it more obvious than ever. I think that if you were one of the people who like managed to cling on as a Trumper, taking him at face value somehow every day, despite him saying opposite things on every topic for 10 years, and you got to this week, he might have shaken you off this week of doing that. And that's probably a good thing.
Something you said there kind of struck me. If you don't expect world leaders to be doing psyops and lying to you for the benefit of you, then you're retarded. There are a lot of people, man, I think outside of our community, and even people in our community, they don't do that. I think it's more normal for people to not understand that Trump is lying and doing psyops than it is for people to understand that. Nobody recognizes that at all. And that's part of the problem. And that's why people are like going insane, and you were seeing all these emotional reactions online, which has been so nice that I haven't had to see any of that the last couple of weeks. But because people don't understand that, and even some who say they do aren't recognizing that. And so they're having emotional reactions to every little thing along the way because they can't recognize the psyops. And I don't know if we're ever going to cross that bridge where we get people to understand that thing. If they don't understand it by now, you're gonna have a tough time playing catch up and learning that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I want to talk about tonight, what I do think is going on, because it's fun to talk about those things of like, I do have a theory with this. I don't have a theory with every psyop we watch. It's one of the reasons I do fixate on narrative, because the reason I fixate on that is not just because I'm drawn to it. It's because it's the thing you can most confidently analyze, even if you're not right at the end of it. We can't analyze actual events that may be being mistranslated to us. What we can analyze is, what are people saying about these things? What is Donald Trump saying about it? What is the media saying about it, etc.? What are other world leaders saying about these things? But yeah, to your point, I think what is just silly, it's like, think about, even in centralized narrative and widely accepted normie speak, look at the JFK era. It is codified in the central narrative, in history as we all know it, that John F. Kennedy and Nikita Khrushchev navigated the war, Freudian slip, navigated the world through an almost war, almost exclusively using back channels. Now, while they were doing that, while it later came to light that they had been doing that the whole time, both of them were holding public press conferences almost every day, speaking to their respective populations about the Cuban Missile Crisis, the lead up to it, while it was going on, all this kind of stuff, right? Now, it doesn't mean that every single thing they were saying to the public were lies, but clearly, this is not anything new that world leaders are going to do this. It doesn't even have to be psyops. Like, I get the way you're framing it, and I think you're right that they would be using psyops. That's not even how I meant it, actually. So you should expect them to be psyoping you. I mean, if there are real operations going on that they are trying to protect, they're not even trying to psyop the American people. They're trying to say, like, hey, I'm trying to assuage your fears and improve morale, and I cannot talk about the actual things that are going on for very obvious reasons that every adult in the world understands. And yet, to your point, the people who got into the truth community, however that was, ostensibly got into it because you are aware that the psyops go a lot further than even what you knew about eras like that. And yet those people are like, man, did you see that Trump said we did this today? Yes, I saw that Trump said that today. Did you see that he said this other thing that completely flies in the face of what you just posted? And then it's just crickets, right? And I think the fun part is looking at both of those and saying, okay, now that we recognize there are a lot of contradictions and psyops going on here, is there any way that we can make sense of what's going on? And I think we actually can, but not everybody believes that.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost silly to try sometimes when it comes to some of this stuff until you get enough information to actually come to a conclusion. There are a lot of people who are very smart and have been following this stuff for a very long time, like Ghost. Like Ghost has been on top of the Middle East situation for a long time. He's got a better reading on this than I think probably anybody out there. And his sources too. He's so spot on. Like, he's got a story for everything. And when it comes to some of this stuff where everybody feels like they need to have an opinion on everything and they never want to admit, and that's like what social media has become for a lot of these influencers. Like, everybody needs to be the expert in everything and have an opinion on everything. And nobody's willing to just be like, yeah, I have no idea. I have no idea what's going on here. And that's where I'm at right now. Like, I understand that Trump is, lying, psyops, whatnot. I understand there's something bigger going on here, sovereign alliance, whatever it is. I don't know how he's going to try to pull it off. I don't know why this was a necessary step. You can make arguments for it all day, whatever. It's confusing as hell out there right now. Yeah. I'm curious what your theory is, though. I mean, I'm sure it fits into the sovereign alliance aspect that you've been.
That's a separate thing we can talk about a little later. For this, actually, for a change, I'm not going to focus on the sovereign alliance right now. I also just want to respond to Banachek found it, said it'll make more sense later when the actuals in the background come through. I get what you're saying, maybe, but it is important to point out that when the actuals come through on a delay, all you know is that the narrative, the official narrative, has been codified on a delay, right? How long did it take the American people to be told about the Gulf of Tonkin incident? And by that, I mean the real Gulf of Tonkin incident.
Or we faked the bombing to get into it. into the war. Yeah.
Somebody please look that up for me, because I don't actually know, but I know it was decades later, I believe, of when we figured out that the Gulf of Tonkin incident was not only a lie, it didn't even happen. Which is often my example of pointing out when a very real and very costly war was knowingly and intentionally started not on false premises, but on no premises. Meaning they told you a story about something that happened that didn't happen. And then a war happened. So,
I found
again, nothing new.
It happened in the 1960s, obviously. They had their doubts. In the 70s, the Pentagon Papers leaked, showed internal doubts. 2003, a documentary, The Fog of War, Robert McNamara admitted there was no attack on August 4th. And then in 2005, 2006, the NSA declassified and released nearly 200 top secret documents, which definitively proved that there was no second attack.
Wow, that was later than I thought. So it took
40
about
years.
40 years.
Yeah.
40 years, guys, for them to admit. And how many actuals in that intervening 40 years do you think trickled into documentaries? And now we know what really happened in the Gulf of Tonkin. And it turned out nothing. Nothing happened. But, which is why that's the incident, actually, of where I coined the phrase, or at least started using the phrase, all real wars are the result of lost information wars. Because I think a lot of people get that part wrong, and they think like, 9/11, for example, real thing happened. The story told about it was a lie. We believe, many people believe that. So there are consequences to that. I think most people in this audience understand that, and that's why they're here. But I do not think people go far enough with that. There are some very real wars that did not even have a 9/11 preceding them. That in the 60s, the American people were told something happened, and what actually happened was nothing. And so we went to war. That is actually how easy it is, because most human beings, and we see that now online in the truth community, where despite being in the truth community and knowing psyops are going on and knowing about things like the Gulf of Tonkin, for some reason, there is a psychological barrier for human beings of believing we couldn't go into a real war on the back of somebody just saying something, could we? Yes, actually, it's usually what happens.
Yeah, and honestly, you wouldn't even need somebody to say something. People will just go with it because you can't risk losing the midterms. It's as simple as that. It's like, okay, my team's in office. They say we need to do this, so I got to cheer that because that's just how it is. We're seeing a lot of that right now too. But you're absolutely right. It makes it interesting when you think of other places and other times. Like that was in the 60s when they didn't have social media. They didn't have media as we have it now, where you could look at anything at the tip of your fingertips, right? And you would think that back then it would be much easier to lie to people because there'd be less people to confirm. But I almost think like right now, it's much easier to lie to people because you almost flood the zone with so much bullshit. You can't even tell what's the truth anymore. It makes it that much easier to get the lies through.
Yeah, I would agree with that, but it's actually, I think you actually said both sides of it in that statement, because this is my argument. This is my accelerationist argument about AI that we've talked about.
Yeah.
Where I acknowledge that a lot of people are being tricked in the age of AI, and a lot more people are going to be exponentially tricked every day in the age of AI, right? Whether it's videos or whatever. People can call you now. I mean, within 6 months, your wife is going to be able to call you on a phone from a spoofed number using a perfectly cloned voice and know all of your details and not be true. That is concerning. But so there are real concerns with that. But one of the things I said recently was, is it good or bad that people are aware of the exponential capabilities of AI right now and are becoming aware of it? And I would say it's good. And to your point about the info war and like the digital battlefield, it is way easier to lie to everybody. It is way easier to disseminate lies on a mass scale. But the flood the zone thing, we can see in real time it's not going well for them. And I would say the one thing that they used to have a decided advantage of in that era was the ability to centralize a narrative. So if you had 4 news networks and a few papers of record, you could get the major mouthpieces on board with this is what happened and kind of go forward from there, right? You can't do that right now because you've got dueling narratives coming from 150 global outlets, each of whom have 100 writers, and then each of whom are being argued with by 1,000 people on social media, citizen journalists and all that kind of stuff. And then when you've got people like Trump just lobbing narrative grenades into the middle of it, you can lie to people easier, but I don't think it's easy to form a central narrative as it was.
I would agree with that. I think, and that's what it causes a lot of problems, because instead of people trying to like discern, for the truth and try to figure shit out, they just go with the narrative that makes them feel the warmest and fuzziest inside.
Yep.
And that's
absolutely.
where we're at. And okay, so the age of AI information, bullshit flying around everywhere. What's the one place people go to try to debunk AI stuff? To other AI.
They talk to the AI, yeah.
Hey Grok, is this true or is this AI? I think Grok's right too.
Skit about that.
I'm sure. That could be our outro if you find it quick enough.
Yeah, I will. It's that guy. I've been watching like these Andrew Russo videos. Funny guy on YouTube, but
that guy, I don't know who that is. Well, here, how about you go find that, and I'll we'll do our next commercial spot real quick.
All right.
Legend says, on St. Patrick's Day, a beard without oil is just a chin with ambition. But a beard with soft disclosure beard oil, that's true treasure. Spiced vanilla, naked, smooth as a leprechaun's getaway plan. Soft enough to impress your barber, bold enough to confuse a baby goat. And this boar bristle brush tames your beard like it holds the crown coin. Every bottle is American made, which means when you buy Soft Disclosure, you're supporting 6 American small businesses. That's not luck, that's capitalism with cheekbones. And while you're at it, try our mint green deodorant, because even legends need fresh pits. Soft Disclosure, go for gold. Visit softdisclosure.com and use promo code TINYBRIGHT for 15% off.
These things are not evaluated by the FDA. Promo code does not apply to bundle discounts.
Thank you, Texas Jules, for gifting some subs. I always love when people get like gifted subs, because you can see who wasn't already subscribed, and it's like a little
me and Chris both got
shame.
gifted subs on our own show by Snowcat, I think, last week.
How dare you guys? How dare you?
This is the quick video I was thinking of.
Okay, is this going to get us booted off of YouTube?
I don't think so. There's no music.
Okay.
Should I jump off this bridge? Grok, can you add context for why this golden retriever was shot with a grenade launcher? Grok, am I real or just pretend like? Grok, any chance that you can generate an image of my ex, but as a fat raccoon waifu getting dunked on by 2013 LeBron James? Grok, is this true? Grok, can you tell me what happened before those children were violently thrown off that cliff? They deserved it, didn't they? Grok, why were Europeans better than everyone else? Grok, do you tell me the truth or do you just tell me what Elon Musk wants me to think? Never mind. Grok, generate 8K DP avatar. Grok, how do I hide handles of Burnett's vodka for my entire family? Grok, submit my application to ICE. Grok, was Jeff Epstein really that bad? Play devil's advocate for me. Grok, Google search perks, Memphis, Reddit. Grok, I've been held in a detainment camp, but I finally broke free. Is it true that Osama bin Laden drank Arctic Vibe Celsius, or is this just AI?
There's no music, nothing but like popular background music. Damn it, Brittany.
I think that was probably AI music.
It's probably AI. That's
Shall
funny,
I get
that's
into
how
my
it is.
theory?
How about we do one more ad spot real quick, and then we'll get you into your theory. Then I'll allow it. We got some Rumble Wallet. They can freeze your accounts, guys. They can shut off your cards. They can lock you out of your own money overnight. Banks do not protect you. They control you. That's why real financial freedom starts with ownership. Introducing Rumble Wallet, a non-custodial wallet built for people who refuse to give up control. With Rumble Wallet, you don't just buy digital currency like Bitcoin and Tether. You can own Tether Gold, which is real gold, and you own it on the blockchain. Through Tether Gold, you get direct ownership of physical gold bars, each one fully allocated, verifiable by serial number, purity, and weight. It isn't paper gold. This isn't an IOU. This is real gold without bank vaults, storage fees, or gatekeepers. You can buy, sell, or move it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, even when traditional gold markets are closed. And if you want, Tether Gold can be redeemed for physical gold. That's real power. And when you support creators on Rumble, you can tip them directly using Rumble Wallet, peer-to-peer, and outside the banking systems. No permission, no middlemen, no cancel button. This wallet is yours forever. And I can vouch for that. No permissions, guys, but I give you permission to tip us using Rumble Wallet if you so choose.
And we have seen people doing so. Appreciate that whenever sats come through.
You got a decent amount. Are we getting...
We were removed. I regret to inform you, John, that we were removed from the movement. A definitely earnest and not fake Badlands supporter has said, Jon Herold and Bernig Bright, I like it. You two hacks are effing bullshit artist liars and must be removed from the movement for our propaganda. We play both sides in the info war.
Crazy. This is like the 5,000th time I've been removed from the info war, so I'll think I'll survive.
Right. Which movement might you be referring to? Because I never signed up for one.
I'll take it.
Anyway,
I'll take it.
Clarify. Anyway, I thought this is really nothing new. The way we frame a lot of these kinds of things, it reminds me. I know Chris and I talked in 2025 in similar framing with Operation Midnight Hammer, which was one of the ways I had put that was I think we're watching a denuclearization narrative leading to a renuclearization actual. And that second part, I think, is long running. It's not resolved or anything. Yeah. But basically, narrative disarmament is what a lot of us said at that time, or at least a few of us said.
Remember when Trump said that they were testing bombs, like deep underground, testing nukes?
Yeah.
I thought that was hysterical. And the way he talked about nukes, we did that at the last guard, I'm pretty sure. We played that video.
That whole summer was like all about nukes, and he was saying the N-word. He kept having some fun with that. He led into that summer with his, I think, tripled up on nuclear-themed executive orders on accelerating nuclear energy and all that kind of stuff. So that was big. But with this, I've been saying since 2023, I think the Middle East is Donald Trump's Kobayashi Maru, the impossible task from Star Trek. Didn't see this narrative coming. I thought the narrative disarmament was 2025, the narrative disarmament of the Iran situation. So was wrong about that. But I think that's still what's going on here. One of the things I've been saying on some of my takes in the brief and everything over the last few days is it possible to acknowledge what we're saying at the start of the show about Donald Trump kind of speaking out of both sides of his mouth about the Iran conflict and basically saying, hey, we won. We blew everything up that needs to be blown up. There's no threat to the U.S. And we still have further to go with this operation. And the way I reconcile those two things is I think that paradox is reconcilable. If you consider, I'm not saying nothing is happening, but if you consider this a narrative disarmament operation, last summer, that framing was depriving the central narrative of the story that Iran is a dangerous nuclear power, right? That was what was disarmed last summer. Right now, I think what is being disarmed is what was going to be a regional war that would then evolve into a global war. And I think there's a couple hints of that are sneaking through. This is just how I'm seeing things. But I'm kind of noticing in the signal, in the noise, there's a few interesting bits of signal. Ghost probably has a million headlines like this, but as an example, the same days that Trump is saying, we won this war, we're going to be out of there soon. Thanks, Tamarack, for the sets, speaking of.
Yeah, thanks, Tamarack.
From the Wall Street Journal, Trump says the Iran war is nearly won, but Israel has other ideas. We had a lot of headlines like that this week, where the media is claiming Israel and Donald Trump are not on the same page. In fact, we got reports when you were gone that Trump was mad at Israel for some of the strikes that Israel is doing, right, in Iran.
Well, that was like one of the funniest parts at the beginning. It's like everybody's like, "Oh, Trump went to war for Israel." And then Trump comes out, well, actually, I'm the one who got them into the war. And now they're mad at each other after both bringing each other into the war on behalf of each other.
Yeah. Absolutely. So there's contradictions right there where, again, and we don't know what is true and what's not. I'm just looking for...
You did what I do to you. You didn't listen to a word I said.
That's true.
Okay. Just a minute.
So,
just be honest. That's cool.
I got distracted by the chat.
I know the chat's lit right now. The guy's back. The guy is
I partially heard you. You were saying that Israel and Trump are not seemingly on the same page.
No, that is what you said.
That's what
which
I
I responded to. Yeah. But anyway.
Well, anyway, it probably wasn't that good. That narrative, again, Ghost probably has a million things there. I also saw this one, which kind of slipped under the radar today. I don't think this made huge news, and I think it's signal. The headline is even written very strangely. FBI warns Iran aspired to attack California with drones in retaliation for war. Alert. So this headline is as retarded as it sounds. FBI warns Iran aspired to attack California with drones in retaliation for war. The FBI warned police departments in California in recent days that Iran could retaliate for American attacks by launching drones at the West Coast.
Okay, can I pause here? I mean, of all the places that Iran could retaliate, I mean, would we be that upset if they retaliated by striking California? Where at in California? Did they say?
They didn't say, but
yeah. I mean, there's. I know I have some friends. I already got kicked out like 10 minutes ago, so I might as well go out like throwing a fit. Great people in California, some great people, but there are some places where if I could be like, hey, if you're going to retaliate, these are the neighborhoods we want you to retaliate first.
If you were not on the FBI list before, you certainly are now.
Oh, I was for sure before.
I thought this quote was interesting because I think that this headline is very strangely confusing. We recently acquired information that as of early February 2026, Iran allegedly aspired to conduct a surprise attack in the event the U.S. conducted strikes against Iran. So the surface level way of looking at this, I think, is the media is fear-mongering, maybe threatening, and saying, we knew a month ago that if something like this were to happen, it would make the United States vulnerable. So I think the surface level reading of this is to say the media is saying Donald Trump is putting Americans in danger by doing what he did. And that the FBI knows he's putting Americans in danger by doing what he did because there could be Iranian retaliation. My read on this from a narrative disarmament perspective is a little different. And that story just adds to it. You know how even last week before you left, we had the infamous Rubio clip saying, you know, people asking him, why did we do this ultimately? And Rubio said, we did this because Israel was going to attack Iran, and we knew that if they did that, Iran was going to attack us. We then had Donald Trump say, maybe a day or two later, Israel didn't force my hand, I may have forced theirs. Now pair that with that headline. If the FBI under Donald Trump knew that Iran was going to attack targets in the United States in the event of an attack, and if you reverse engineer this to just a week ago, Donald Trump and Marco Rubio both told you that Israel was going to attack Iran, who would that retaliation have been provoked by? And this starts to lead people into the ghost zone of saying whether you want to use Israel or just the globalists. To me, I think that this is a preemptive off-ramp from the Iran war that absolutely was planned as a false flag to strike the United States. And that doesn't mean that Iran would have been the ones doing it, by the way. It just means we would have been told that Iran has struck the United States in response.
The Jews.
And when you add that, when you take that crazy theory and combine it with the fact that Donald Trump can't stop talking about how their capabilities have been wiped out and their drones are gone and they have no drones, it's kind of interesting when these stories start coming out here and Trump saying, I'm not really happy with what Israel's doing. Israel was going to attack Iran. Iran was going to attack California if and when they were attacked.
Yeah.
So
I haven't read that story yet. What it makes me think of though is Ezra Cohen Watnick, and he retweets Josh Steinman a lot on Twitter. And ever since Biden was in office, I mean, and you know why we've keyed in on Ezra Cohen Watnick over the years, but they talk a lot about how many like foreign terror cells or enemy combatant sleeper cells or whatever have been brought into the United States under the Biden regime with the open border. And they've said that multiple times still, like anytime there's a terrorist attack within the United States, something they label as a terrorist attack, they bring attention to the sleeper cells here in the United States. And I wouldn't say we've gotten like a definitive, this was our enemy, this was Iran and retaliation, or Iran doing something here in the United States yet. We've gotten like, oh, this guy was a terrorist sympathizer or something, things along those lines. We haven't gotten a specific storyline there. It's interesting though, because what you're talking about is like the real reason we got into the war. The fact that we don't have a definitive answer for that, and there's multiple different stories, is wild in and of itself.
Yeah. Well, and Chris just said in chat, California going to false flag itself, and that's kind of what I'm saying. So, and it doesn't have to be California, but basically, I guess the simplest way to put the way I see this is the reason Trump and Rubio and them are having such a kind of difficult time just telling people what was going on is, imagine if this is right. Imagine trying to hold a press conference and say, okay, listen, we had intelligence that someone was going to attack Iran, and that same someone was then going to attack us and say that it was Iran attacking us in retaliation for being attacked. That's a wrap-up smear that you would see in the media cycle, except in the form of a war.
Hold on, do that again, because that sounded retarded. Do it one more time. Slower.
So they're saying, what we know that they're saying is Israel was going to attack Iran. Donald Trump preempted Israel attacking Iran.
Well, but there's conflicting stories about that itself.
I'm saying that's what Donald Trump is saying.
But he's also said the opposite, I'm pretty sure.
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure, didn't he say like, I brought them into the war?
Yeah, he's saying he preempted. He said Israel was going to attack Iran, and he preempted them.
Okay, you keep talking. I'm going to find that quote from him.
Because he said, he was asked if they forced his hand, Israel, and he said, I might have forced theirs. Rubio was the one who most directly said it.
Okay.
Rubio was the one who said, Iran, we had intelligence that Israel was going to attack Iran, and that if they did that, there would have been automatic strikes from Iran onto Americans.
Okay, let's listen to this.
And if Israel forced your hand to launch these strikes against Iran, did Netanyahu pull the United States into this war?
No, I might have forced their hand. You see, we were having negotiations with these lunatics, and it was my opinion that they were going to attack first. They were going to attack. If we didn't do it, they were going to attack first. I felt strongly about that. And we have great negotiators, great people that do this very successfully and have done it all their lives very successful. And based on the way the negotiation was going, I think they were going to attack first. And I didn't want that to happen. So if anything, I might have forced Israel's hand, but Israel was ready and we were ready, and we've had a very, very powerful impact.
Okay. So I was remembering it. So I'm tracking now.
Yeah, but both of those, actually, the second part of that is interesting, because in the second part of that, he seems to be talking about Iran and saying they were going to attack first, right? So we did.
It's funny how he doesn't say like we had intelligence. He's like, here's my opinion. I think they were going to do it. I thought they were going to do it. I felt strongly about it, so might as well.
And when you combine that with what Rubio's saying, again, I'm not saying you can take any of these things at face value, which is why we led the show off with all that. I'm just saying I look for patterns in the narratives, right? So it's like, okay, the macro pattern we all agree on is that nothing that these guys are saying about what happened makes any sense in terms of how they're saying it. Well, what would make sense? If they were preempting a false flag, meaning disarming a false flag. Now, who would be responsible for the false flag? If you think it's Iran, I would argue you have not been paying attention to what's been going on. Now, most in MAGA are not going to get on board with that. Most in MAGA are going to say, obviously, Iran would have been the false flag. That's not a false flag. That's an act of war. If something is a false flag, it is somebody attacking you and pretending that that somebody is somebody else. And who really wanted a war with Iran? For the US to be involved in a major war with Iran and to be leading that war with Iran?
The Jews.
Somebody wanted us over there, and somebody wanted to be running point on that.
The Jews.
Rubio tells us
The Jews.
that they were going to attack Iran, and that we were going to suffer the consequences of them having done that. So let's even say that that's true. Maybe that's technically not a false flag, right? If Iran is attacking the United States because they were attacked by our greatest ally, why would Iran have that kind of a strategy? Because until now, until Donald Trump, Israel's military strategy was the American government's military strategy, because those two things are the same thing, which is what we've been talking about for a long time, right? Kind of reasonable to attack the United States if Israel attacks you, isn't it? So if that even was Iran's strategy, I think what Trump did is he took Israel's move off of the board. And again, this is a rerun in a different, more complex theater of Operation Midnight Hammer. Because during that time, it was even more obvious for anybody that gets all upset about Ghosts in his Israel commentary.
The Jews.
Donald Trump told you in a pretty fiery press conference in June of 2025 that he told Israel to turn back live bombers from Iran because he had already taken care of the threat. He threatened Israel to do that.
While they were negotiating, right?
While they were negotiating. And as I said in the lead up, and I did say this on day one on Saturday, when this stuff restarted in Iran, I said Iran is going to be the first player on the game board to agree with Donald Trump's framing of what is happening over there, and Israel is going to disagree. And that's exactly what's been playing out here, where Israel and the US are saying that they're allies and they're both against the Iranian regime. I'm not talking about that, but they are disagreeing completely over how great a threat Iran poses, how complete or endless the war is going to be, whether or not there are going to be increased military operations over there, and what they should do in response. Are completely disagreeing, and American neocons are all firmly in line with Israel, while Donald Trump keeps telling you that the operation is complete and Iran is basically no threat.
Yeah, so I mean, I think it's plausible. It's just as plausible as any other theory out there. I mean, nobody knows what the fuck's going on here. My only issue with that thought process is if they had intelligence or a reason to believe that Israel was going to do that, like false flag us into the war, like why would we not show that to everybody and be like, look at this shit. Look at this bullshit.
Well, consider, that's why I said the second part after you played that Trump clip. That's not how it was. They basically wouldn't even be able to convince the American people that that's true, because Israel would say, we didn't false flag you. Iran did attack you because we attacked them.
But so instead we just we go to war whatever the war is. We do that instead of the false flag. Like if the intelligence was good enough for them to get us into the fake war and then defend Israel, like in that clip particularly, Trump is like essentially defending Israel. It's like, oh, they didn't drag us in the war. We dragged them into the war. You know, like that. If Trump had intelligence that Israel was going to false flag us, which I'm not trying to defend Israel in any way here, because I think that's a totally plausible thing and something they've probably done many times to us already over the years. I just feel like it seems like an interesting response to be like, oh, they're going to false flag us in the war. Well, then I'm going to go to war even harder without a false flag justification. You know what I mean? It just seems a little.
But that's why I think it's that's why my premise is that this is not happening as we're being told it. Doesn't mean nothing is happening again, but I think that because let's imagine, and this is what I try to do when I lay out these scenarios, is say, if this is right, what would be the end game? What will things look like? This is what you and I have been talking about this with the Ukrainian theater for a while, right? If we're right that that war has effectively been over for 4 years and counting, then what would we expect on the back of it? Maybe the original agreement that Volodymyr Zelensky agreed to, that the allies withdrew him from, will be the thing that is codified, right? And if we are the only people on the internet that are saying that, and also the people that don't think it's real, how can all the people who believe it's real be wrong about every single thing that's going to happen at the end of the story? So in this Iran situation, one of the things I said on day one, and, you know, I did use the name Khomeini, which may not be true. You know, Chris and I talked about this over the weekend. Like, it could be that they tell us that the next Khomeini gets killed, and we keep playing this kind of whack-a-mole with the Iranian regime. But one thing I did say was, if this theory of narrative disarmament holds, what I would expect is that the new Iranian regime at the end of it will look a lot like the old Iranian regime, and that not really anything will have changed except for one really big thing. The narrative reason or impetus for going to war with Iran will have been taken off the board. Just like last year, they don't have nukes, right?
Yep.
So if we get, at the end of this, it could be this weekend, it could be in a month, if we get Donald Trump going out on Truth Social, going out and doing press conferences and saying, and the Iranian regime, both saying, the war is over, we have come to an agreement, whether that's an official treaty or not, the Strait of Hormuz is open, we are good. That is a new battle space that Israel is now navigating narratively compared to before all of this happened. Because if they then upend a peace that Trump has codified and brokered, it puts them in a much different and much more isolated position, I think.
I would argue they're already in that position. They've been in that position since, because that's what the June, and I'm partially playing devil's advocate here, so take it as you will. Back in June of last year, that's what we did already. We took away their narrative impetus to get into these wars. Like, we took out, allegedly, the nuclear facilities, and then therefore that's 30 years of justification for war with Iran out the window with that one Top Gun Maverick maneuver. And then here we are again. Whatever actuals are happening, we don't have to know. Narratively, Trump got into the war, and it is narratively kind of being done on behalf of Israel. Like, if we're being honest about it, the story we're being told about why we're doing it, the justifications, those aren't up to snuff, in my opinion, for us to be involved there. And then there's also stories, and I think Ghost has talked about this. It's like Israel's already talking about war with Turkey after this. If the real problem here is the Jews, whatever, not like every Jew out there, I'm talking about just like the leadership in Israel, as we've been saying for a long time, that's the problem that at some point needs to be addressed. Like, I understand there's a deep state in every country. Maybe that is what we're taking out here. Totally cool. Let's do it. Let's replace the deep state with the deep state's eldest son, the line of succession or whatever, regime change, whatever. I can get on board with all that stuff. But at some point, like the theory, as you outlined it to me, I don't know. I just feel like even narratively, there's a lot going on here that could have been handled different. And I know people, well, you're smarter than Trump. No, obviously I'm not smarter than Trump. I don't have access to inside information. I'm just curious to see how this. I think this ends with like peace in the Middle East. Like, that is going to be the end game here. But in order to get there, we also have to get Israel to stop doing their bullshit Like, because
Yeah,
I feel like they're causing more problems in the Middle East than they are solving them. You know what I mean?
I totally agree with that, and that's why I didn't call, despite me using the terminology a lot, I have always used the Kobayashi Maru terminology about the Middle East, to your point. I didn't use it with Venezuela. I don't use it even with Russia and Ukraine. I think the Middle East is the impossible task, and I think Donald Trump is Captain Kirk. And, you know, that analogy works really well, I think, because it's not just a surface level, hey, he's the greatest captain ever, the greatest leader, he can lead us through the impossible task. The brilliance of the Kobayashi Maru is how Captain Kirk defeats the Kobayashi Maru, which is a computer program.
By not playing.
He actually does play.
Cheats. Yeah.
Yeah, he reprograms the victory conditions of the test. And if you think of that with what's going on here, we've been told the victory conditions, to your point about last summer, was Iran cannot have the capability to make a nuclear weapon. Mission accomplished. The narrative is gone. We need Iranian regime change. That seems to be what's going on right now, right? Now, that may not be the only other thing that needs to be deprived of Israel and or the globalist warmongers who want this war to perpetuate. And your point leads me to something Ghost and I have talked about a lot. You know, a lot of his research on the actuals over there and combining it with my reading on the Sovereign Alliance. The tangential storyline here is interesting to watch, to a lesser extent China, but really how Russia and Vladimir Putin are kind of looming on the edges of the board here from a narrative and an actual level. And I would say that to address your, you know, if you're saying it doesn't even seem disarmed enough from a narrative level, it seems like Israel could just keep doing whatever the fuck they want, right?
Yeah.
I think that you might be right if this is all we get out of the story. But when I first wrote the Righteous Russia series, I was not talking about Israel and the Middle East. But I did say that I think the narrative between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin is going to escalate to a degree that I've even doubted at times all the way through. And I still, every few weeks, come back to that and think, you know what? I don't think they're done with the kayfabe between them. And this is the type of theater that Ghost has theorized that could be the perfect way for them to codify the arc of the peacemakers. And the reason Russia would be significant here, to address your point, is if Israel is engaged with all this bullshit with Iran and like Donald Trump just can't disarm that narrative and can't seem to get them to fucking stop or get the American people to get them to stop. If Israel's actions threaten to draw us into war with Russia, I think that starts to grant way more powerful mandate to Donald Trump to do another big narrative, and that might be the last narrative, if you believe a certain reading of the Q drops, which was always my reading of it, that Donald Trump gets to publicly say, Israel better stop everything that it's doing, right? He doesn't really use as much of that rhetoric about Iran and everything. But if we get Putin coming in here, which he's come close a few times with Israel over the last couple of years, and says, last warning, if you fuck up global trade, which is the big story right now, right? It's not really Iran and it's not really Israel. It's the Strait of Hormuz. And you've got Russia and China right now, countries 2 and 3 on the power scale, saying whoever is effing up the Strait of Hormuz really needs to be careful. And if we believe that Donald Trump has an alliance with those two men, or at the very least does not want to go to World War III with them, who is the one party that seems to be screaming us toward conflict with those countries? And I would say it's Israel and Europe to a lesser degree. So,
I mean, if there's a conflict for us to like get that World War III story with us and against Russia, it's this one. I mean, Iran is allegedly allies with China and Russia, but they're kind of just like whatever, bros. The Strait of Hormuz stuff is funny. We're getting another story out of this. I did see this today where Trump said he's going to tap into the what do they call it? Damn it, the oil
reserve.
SPR. Yeah, the Strategic Petroleum Reserve or whatever. And that's what Biden did. And they let it get to super low points. And everybody was like, everybody on the right was hating on Biden for it. And everybody on the left was like defending Biden for it. And now everybody's going to be a hypocrite again because Trump's in charge now.
Yep.
And so that'll
Absolutely.
be fun.
Well, energy, I think, is a massive undercurrent to what's going on here, too. But to your point there, the Strait of Hormuz in Russia, I call it sovereign signal. And I'll always say, like, Trump and Putin and Xi always give you, in my opinion, these markers and these very, very strong hints as to the sovereign alliance. And they often do it in the middle of chaos. So as you said, on the surface level, the US and Russia should be at each other's throats right now in the central narrative because of that Iranian alliance with Russia. Same with China. Well, what's happening instead? Instead, Donald Trump granted India a special license to receive unsanctioned Russian oil. And which two countries does that benefit? India and Russia. And which country is the most squeezed as a result of this, or region? Europe. So Europe does not have that exception. Europe is sanctioning the shit out of Russian oil, and Europe's energy markets are going absolutely insane on the back of this, while both India and Russia get relief.
What is
by
ours
Donald
at,
Trump.
by the way? I haven't been following. I know before I left on vacation, our what is price of oil at?
Last I saw, it was like 120 a barrel, but
Oh, gee, it went up that high?
maybe that was futures. 93 right now.
Okay, I was just saying.
It looks like it got up to 94, 95. Maybe that was a projection. The Iranian regime is saying, get ready for 200. That's their threat. But either way, these are those little sovereign alliance markers where you're like, hold on. So Trump and Putin are in this massive wargaming game of chicken, but Trump wanted to make sure that the Russians could get their oil to market and that India was okay. And by the way, all the bullshit about Chinese tankers not making it through the strait, according to the central narrative, they're the only ones going through. So we've got like the only people isolated right now, generally speaking, seems to be Russia, India, and China, 3 of like the 4 sovereign alliance nations, if you believe in that theory. And the country, the region that is most affected is Europe. And I think that speaks to the larger energy narrative here. Chris Wright sort of got hung out to dry yesterday by saying a bunch of stuff that the Pentagon immediately refuted.
Well, it's retarded that our price is going up when we're at war in the Middle East. Like, if we're drilling, like we're told we're gonna be and should be, you'd think our prices shouldn't be that all too effective. I mean, maybe some minor stuff, but
well, we're selling onto global markets.
Yeah.
And even that point that you just made is relevant to, I think, part of the psyops here, part of the unwinding. You and I, for several years, have talked about the switch theory, which, by the way, I don't know if I showed you, but there was an Elon Musk tweet the other day where it was a light switch that just said, fix everything.
Oh, no, I didn't
and it was
see that.
talking about technology and energy. And he
That's
said,
awesome.
yeah, flip it. But anyway, that because he's instrumental to the switch theory from a technology perspective. And I think this, if you're looking, one of the terms we use a lot is public mandate. How do you get public mandate for the very energy transition that Donald Trump has been literally signing executive orders about since he first came back, and that a lot of the Biden administration era that we talked about during the Biden administration the one thing that they seemed to keep going with Trump was these sort of progressive future energy situations, not Green New Deal stuff, but the CHIPS Act and all that. Well, I think most of the collective mind could get on board on the back of this with, we probably shouldn't be putting all our oil out into global markets. We probably should not be beholden to whatever is going on in a canal in Iran for what we're paying at the gas pump when we are supposedly have one of the most oil-rich nations in the world. And if that is the case, then we probably need to accelerate down some alternatives to protect ourselves from these things.
We should start calling it the gay of Hormuz. I think it's way more appropriate.
I'm on board.
You would be, faggot. Just kidding. Crazy. Well, I mean,
it's
hey
just
man,
chaos.
interesting theory. I will say that. And like I said, I want to wait. I want to see how this plays out. I have no idea. I have no idea. I'm mostly curious to see how Trump decides to actually unwind us from this, if and when he does.
Yeah.
Because he hasn't really changed his rhetoric. He's been talking about his off ramps since like the first day, and it's like, oh, we're done. We're done. We're, whatever. It's going to be over whenever I want it to be. All these things that hasn't changed. He could do that for as long as he wants, and that's. I'm just curious to see how long he's literally going to let this go on, and when he steps away. I think the thing I'm most curious about is who's going to step in to actually like facilitate the peace in the Middle East, because it's probably sovereign alliance wise, it's probably going to be Saudi Arabia. It's not going to be Israel. And then where does it go from there?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely looking for those things. And it's worth noting too that even though a lot of what we're talking about right now is narrative, it's also worth playing with the idea that the timeline is not entirely in Donald Trump's control, meaning that if any part of my theory is right, that there's some sort of narrative disarmament going on here, and Chris talks about a lot of the same stuff, then the point of that would be to stop actuals from happening, right? Well, that implies that there are obviously players on the game board, whether they're Iranian or Israeli or whoever you think they are, that have the ability to fuck some shit up. And it's entirely possible that Trump is not entirely in control of the timeline, right? Like, it could be that he is trying to draw certain things out that we don't know. Is he trying to draw something out from Israel? Is he trying to get a few more things accomplished on an actual level? Is this all about energy? Is a big part of what's going on here some sort of massive global energy shock situation? I mean, I don't know. These are all just speculative, but that's why I think it's good to look at the macro. And I agree with you that you'd think you're going to need some major Eastern Hemisphere players to like really step onto the board. And the timing is interesting because, but by the way, I didn't even mention, I don't know if you saw this, but I think it was 2 days ago that Donald Trump initiated a phone call with Putin to talk about Iran.
Oh, I didn't see that.
So
no.
yeah, he initiated a phone call.
Did he say the call was coming? He didn't. Okay, hold on. Before, did he post about it on True Social afterwards?
I don't know if he did actually.
Oh, well, then it wasn't. Then it didn't really happen.
It might not have.
It wasn't moving the goal. He's always every time. Well, first of all, I've said this. If you watch my show, you know this. Anytime Zelensky's about to meet with Trump, he gets a phone call ahead of time from Putin, where Trump comes out and posts about it on True Social immediately afterwards, saying how awesome of a call it was. Tells us how long it was, all the things they talked about, how great of friends they are.
He did bring it up, by the way. He didn't post it on True Social, but Trump told media in Florida on March 9th. Trump on Monday told reporters he had a very good call with Putin about Ukraine and the conflict in the Middle East.
Different tactics. Something's off.
Yeah, there's tremendous hatred between Putin and Zelensky. They can't seem to get it together, but I think it was a positive call on that subject. Trump added that Putin wants to be helpful with the Iran conflict. I said you could be more helpful by getting the Ukraine-Russia war over with. That would be more helpful.
Did I see a story? And I know I didn't see this, but my buddy texted me about this. That Kirill Dmitriev or whatever, there's some sort of economic plan that he's putting together that's going to put like $12 trillion, like some sort of partnership or agreement. Did you see that?
No.
Oh, yeah, the Dmitriev package. My buddy texted me this.
He's always flirting with Panuna on there, which makes me me a little leery of.
So this is a while ago, I guess. Never mind.
Yeah.
14 trillion in projects. Okay, never mind. This is old. This is February. That was like a whole month ago. That's
so
like
either way,
years.
it's just another marker that like I'm using so Trump alleviates energy pressure on Russia and India as a result of Iran, and then he supposedly calls Putin to talk about this stuff. And then the timing is also interesting. This is probably gonna, whether or not the Iran story is still going on or not, it's certainly relevant to his impending and still uncanceled meeting with Xi Jinping in Beijing. The Chinese state media said this week that the visit is still on, even amid security concerns. They said originally there was going to be several stops in China, and now that is unlikely. But that Xi and Trump are still on good terms, according to Chinese state media. So that'll be interesting, because Trump is going to, if the Iran storyline is still going on, like, what do you think the subjects are going to be with all that? And especially, like, let's see what the economic fallout is here. It's fascinating. Man, it is another thing I was going to say about the stock market and the energy prices and everything. Another way of looking at all of this crap is, are these prices and is the stock market action actually being caused by these things? And if not, then I could completely imagine a scenario where, because of all the midterm bullshit that we're inundated with, what does the media and the globalist apparatus want to do to Donald Trump? They want to strip him of mandate. They want to get the American people to turn on him.
Color revolution, yeah.
Yep. And we've talked about this, actually. You've actually brought this up for years. Despite our best efforts to try to, like, talk to the normies and get them to pay attention to the stuff that we pay attention to, the only fucking thing they care of is their financial situation, which I get, but that is the only thing they care about. And instead of looking at this as white hats in control and they're trying to wake the normies up, is it global markets and globalists have all gotten together and said, here's a way that we could spike global energy markets, or say that global energy markets are spiking. Mm-hmm. And then you read Trump's attempts to bring energy prices down a little differently, right? You kind of alluded to this a few minutes ago. If Trump is the one who started this, and now Trump is scrambling to manage energy prices, that doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? Well, again, what if Trump knew they were going to do this with markets and with energy, and he is trying to somehow tell people this is not me that's causing the energy crunch, but nobody believes him because they're like, dude, aren't you bombing the Middle East right now?
Well, that's why I think it makes total sense that he went to Venezuela first to get those economic oil deals and shit sorted out there. Because could you imagine if we didn't do that?
Man, imagine. I like that idea, because he did say the oil is already flowing like way faster than makes any sense. So, like, are we going to get some Venezuelan barges coming in?
Well, I'm sure we already have. Remember?
But I mean, like, big bombastic narrative of, like, the Venezuelans are coming to save us from gas prices.
The night before we bombed them, he was standing in Texas at Corpus Christi in front of it was like, me and Chris talked about it, 80 million or billion barrels of oil or some shit, like Venezuelan oil. Like, he was standing in front of a boat full of Venezuelan oil the night before he bombed Iran.
Thank God for Maduro. And to think, just 3 Venezuelans smuggled all those barrels in.
That's it, on a sailboat with Patrick Byrne. A catamaran, as they call it.
And that'll be another sovereign alliance marker in terms of the PSYOP, if it is Venezuelan oil that Trump held a presser and he's like, good news, guys. We don't need Iranian oil anymore.
Well, it's even stupider, because the PSYOP is even stupider, because he said repeatedly that we don't need anybody else's oil but our own. Yet it's going to be Venezuelan oil that probably saves today.
Let's say that's true. Trump could also hold a presser and talk about how the oil regime is artificially boosting the prices in the United States, despite the supply shock having nothing to do with us, which, like, that would be kind of interesting.
Well, that's exactly what's happening right now. Like, the oil that we're consuming, and I see some people talking about this, the oil we're consuming right now is like stuff that we bought and paid for 2 weeks ago or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And yet the prices went up immediately when the conflict started. So the whole thing is fabricated, manipulated, just like everything else.
Yeah. That is a trend we've actually talked about, like, for the whole last year, especially in 2025, is the the increasing realization, even among market experts, that markets are fake.
Oh,
and are
Trump can
entirely
manipulate the
narrative.
market with a tweet, and he's shown that example thousands of times.
Yep.
Thousands of times. He is the market maker.
Damn
But
straight.
anyway, we should talk a little bit about election stuff.
I know
Adam
very
Cheswick,
little
John
about this, but I did see that. Well, this is one headline I've got. As the SAVE Act vote looms, the FBI expands 2020 election probe to Arizona. Federal government's post-2020 election reckoning has arrived in Arizona. Warren Peterson, the Arizona Senate president, confirmed Monday that federal investigators came knocking and he answered. Last week, I received and complied with a federal grand jury subpoena for records relating to the Arizona State Senate's 2020 audit of Maricopa County. The FBI has the records. Any other report is fake news.
I'm curious, though. Is there any reporting that says it's from the same grand jury that went after Georgia's? Like Fulton County? Because in the just the news story, they don't. It's hard to understand. Let me pull this up, and I'm just going to read this because it's fairly short. Or do I not have the right subscription to Just the News to get the full story? But it says right here, the FBI is expanding its criminal probe into suspected election irregularities, secretly obtaining a large tranche of voting records from Arizona's largest county with a recent grand jury subpoena. Multiple people familiar with the probe told Just the News. The sources, who spoke only on the condition of anonymity because of the secrecy of the grand jury probe, said FBI agents are receiving terabytes of electronic election data from Maricopa County about a month after the Bureau first disclosed an investigation into election irregularities by raiding a warehouse near Atlanta and seizing ballots from the 2020 election conducted in Fulton County, Georgia's largest metropolis. So they don't say they're connected, but
yeah,
I'm going to see if I can get the...
I mean, they're obviously part of the same overall.
I mean, it's the same agency, if that's what you're trying to say.
Yeah, I mean...
Well, that's my question, though, is like, is it the same grand jury?
Is it literally the same investigation? Yeah.
Is it part of the Rico Grande situation that we've been waiting on? Like, what is it?
Would you use the same grand jury for that? Do you know?
I mean, if they're looking into...
This is very stupid, but do you use multiple grand juries if you're in Rico? Or would you be using one?
Rico, you'd use one. But if it's separate, that's what I'm trying to figure out. Like, they don't really specify. Yeah. If it's and depends on the grand jury too, because it might be tied to the state. You know, like is Georgia grand jury looking into this in Fulton County, and then is Arizona's grand jury looking into what's happening in Arizona? But
there could be a Rico grand jury looking into all of it, although that would probably come later, right?
Well, that's we don't know. This could be that. This could be the Rico case. That's what I'm curious about. And if it is, or even if it's not, what I expect to see is another state added. We've been talking about this for a couple months now.
Mm-hmm.
A month now, when Fulton County dropped. If they're going to get to the point where they need to, I think, narratively, to delegitimize Biden, in like for everybody, like everybody needs to be aware that Joe Biden did not win the election. They need to get one more state on top of this, either like a Michigan or a Pennsylvania or Illinois, maybe. I don't remember.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Minnesota's enough electoral college votes. I used to bring those maps up and show everybody. Team Smooth says, I heard it was related to the 2024 election. See, what I read is it was 2020. Now, I only read two paragraphs.
That said 2020. That the reporting said 2020, I believe.
Yeah. But this is huge. I mean, we've been waiting on these stories. This is like the premise of the devolution theory is they stole the election. Trump knew they were going to steal it. At some point, we were going to have that story circle back around and get some sort of closure on that.
Which is why 2020 is important. It's like, 2024 is important too, but we won that narrative. But yeah, it's like that's the diamonds. And then there was this story that came out yesterday, I believe, related from the New York Times. The DNC Democrats sue to find out if Trump will send armed officers, this is meaningless detail, they just do that for drama, to election sites. In a lawsuit filed Tuesday, the DNC sought to compel the government to say whether it plans to deploy armed federal officers in this year's elections.
This is a retarded lawsuit. Like,
yeah,
they're trying to sue to figure out what's going to happen in the future. Like, this would be the easiest thing to defend. This is all about the headline, the narrative.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They want to, frame it as if it's going. 'Cause obviously, this implies that they know that Trump is going to be doing that.
Maybe,
Or
or
at
they're
least
just
they
maybe
he
they're
could.
trying to get out ahead of it. I don't know, but it's like you're literally suing. Like, hey, do you plan on committing a crime in the
Yeah.
future? I'm going to sue you to compel you to answer that. That's the dumbest lawsuit of all time, outside of the lawsuit I'm currently involved in.
Yeah, right. Which is retarded, but I like the counter signal there, and I consider it encouraging. All our thoughts of elections aside, we've talked about this a few times in the last few months. The way the machine is operating, they are concerned about oversight of the elections. We have all our controversial takes about elections that people like and don't like. But
Mostly don't like.
at the very least, the machine is worried. So I'm not saying that means we overwhelm the fraud, blah, 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 but they are worried about actions that Trump could take regarding these elections, which you would think that if they had total control over them, they would not be.
Yeah,
And,
I get what you're saying, and I feel like I
why
don't
would
agree.
they care?
I'm
Yeah,
not
like,
even
why
sure
would
if
they
I know
care?
why. They fight Trump on everything he does because they're doing everything they can to protect the system. I think they have total control over our election system. I think Trump actually sending some sort of troops in and like interdicting the machines, much like that draft executive order from December of 2020. I think that is one that would make it very difficult for them to pull off their shenanigans. So yeah, that is like a red line that they're very worried about. If you're Trump, you're like, well, they're worried about this. I'm definitely going to do it. I bet we don't actually see that happen. Maybe we will get some. There's rumors of election executive orders coming. Will we get them? I have no idea.
Yep.
But we'll see. We'll see what kind of disclosure we
Anybody
get.
calling elections fake will be ridiculed either way, even if said orders say the same thing.
Yeah, that's so stupid. There's a report of, or it was John Solomon who reported on this, that Trump was reading whatever report that Tulsi Gabbard put together about election fraud stuff. This is like 2 weeks. This was right before the war started. It was in Trump's hand. He was reading it any day now. And then he was going to come out and, they were going to publish it and talk about it and all those things. And that was going to be the impetus for some sort of executive action from him. And that story's still looming. Like, we need resolution on just that headline.
Yeah.
Not let alone the 2020 stuff. Yeah, the election stuff is so stupid. I mean, I just want to say this about it. Everybody in Badlands even has their own opinions about how we should handle elections. Some people are like very principled in their belief of our elections are fake or they're illegitimate and there's no reason to vote. There are people who think it's fake and illegitimate and you should vote. And then there are people, everything's fine, just vote because you have to. It's your civic duty. I don't care what people want to do. I am never going to tell you what you should do. I'm not going to make voting or not voting mandatory for you. That is your own decision as a sovereign individual, which you should make for yourself. And if people talking about election fraud and the fact that the uniparty exists and all those things somehow threatens you and your ability to decide for yourself whether you should vote, then it's not me that's the problem. That's you and the people that are deciding to vote or not vote based on what I'm saying. You are not ready for the freedom that Trump wants to give you if you let me or anybody else who negatively talks about our elections and they themselves not voting, if that sways you, you're not ready to be a sovereign individual in the first place. So grow up here and stop freaking out about people who talk about how fraudulent our elections are. The uniparty exists and it's an illusion of choice. And those people aren't voting. They're going to say they're not going to vote leading up to the elections. They're not going to cost anybody the midterms. Don't be retarded.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's just a stupid argument.
I just wanted to add that I genuinely think that some people misunderstand the stances of some of these people too. I'm not saying everybody, right? There are people that just don't believe in it. They don't want to subject themselves to it, and we do struggle sessions instead. Now, everything you just said, if you think that somebody's being like a retarded, cynical doomer, that's your prerogative. You're allowed to think that. You're allowed to hate that person if you want to, and your feelings can be very hurt by them doing that or choosing, to do with their sovereignty what they will, right? You don't have to like it. To try to stop them from speaking about any of these things, I think is ridiculous. But the point I wanted to make is that I had some talks on the back end at Badlands the last few days about these sort of things, because we talk about these things a lot, both on the shows and behind the scenes. And obviously, you guys know not everybody here agrees. I've gone back and forth on this topic myself a million times. But one of the things I was thinking of this weekend is, I didn't vote. I have dropped these anecdotes on these shows for years as markers of my long journey of awakening and how it started when I was a liberal. And the fact that one of the things I'm proud of is that I did not vote in 2012, long before I felt like I was awakened, long before I became a MAGA Trump follower. I didn't vote, not because I thought elections were fake, but effectively I did, because I had voted for Obama in 2008, and then in 2012, I saw Obama and Mitt Romney, and I had kind of been woken up about Obama, and I knew that Romney was part of the Uniparty. And I just wish people would add the context when they shame people for making whatever sovereign choice they are in a world in which the president has been telling us the elections are fraudulent and, quote, totally rigged the whole time. That when you're talking about that we have to vote at all costs and it's the most important thing in the world, you're talking about it specifically in the context of Donald Trump. Because if you apply that context, or this is hypothetical, maybe you are talking about it because it's Donald Trump. But I would challenge anybody, if you were to talk to me in 2012 or now about 2012, about whether or not it was the bad choice or the immoral choice to abstain from subjecting myself to a humiliation ritual between Mitt Romney and Barack Obama, that was the morally correct choice for me. And I would say objectively, because I exercised my sovereignty and did not allow anybody else to do that for me. And it led me on a path toward Donald Trump. I did vote in 2020. I did vote in 2024. I don't need a sticker for those kinds of things. But I think that people believe, even at Badlands, when somebody like a Chris Paul or a G Money or whatever has their stances about, or Jonathan Drake has their stances about voting, that they think those guys are trying to hold the movement Donald Trump represents back, when those guys think you could be holding it back by participating in a system that Donald Trump is telling you is fraudulent. So you can feel whichever way you want to feel about it. But I think it's important to distinguish that, to be totally frank, a lot of the people that get really angry at that stance literally do not understand the mindset of people like that. They literally believe that they are being cynical doomers, when what those men are actually trying to do is cultivate mandate for change. And in their opinion, which doesn't have to be your opinion, doing the thing that is the same is not going to result in the mandate cultivation to change the thing. It is the simplest, principled argument you could make. And if you need any further evidence of that, watch an argument between one of those guys and somebody calling them a doomer, because the people calling them a doomer have to jump through 7 layers of mental gymnastics to explain themselves, when all those guys have to do is say, I believe Donald Trump. Donald Trump says this is rigged and I'm not going to subject myself to that.
Yeah, it's so stupid. You're not going to vote your way to a fix. I see some people in chat. Most people are like, these are some of the arguments. I just want to say, because I see this argument coming. We talked about it on Saturday's show last week, and I saw the people in the chat. They're like, you have to vote. You don't have a choice. You have to vote. No, you literally do have a choice. That's up to you. One side of that argument is trying to convince you to, no matter what, you have to vote. They're the ones that are convincing you to protect the system. The other people are trying to opt out.
Yes.
That's their choice to make. That's their choice to make. And I'm not going to be swayed one way or the other. It'll be up to me. I'm probably not even going to tell people whether I do it or not. You'll see by
it's
the
nobody's
sticker
business. It used
what
to
they're
be the
wearing.
way that, right.
And it's funny too, like I wonder, and this is probably a conversation Chris should be in on, because he's like, he's mentally fought this argument with himself and then actually with other people more times than anybody. He's like sick of the conversation because we've had it so many times. This is literally every election cycle for the past however many years. He's been in the same position, same points, same talking points.
Correct every time, by the way.
Yeah, correct every time. Frankly, sick of it. But it's just retarded. Like, you cannot vote your way out of these situations. You literally cannot. But yeah, I'm not.
And,
let's not dwell on that. Or go ahead if you have a point.
I just got triggered. But Renata Ford in the chat has said this a million times. You don't have to vote, but then your opinion doesn't matter. And the reason I wanted
she said earlier. Hold on. She said earlier that veterans died for you to vote. So
no, they fucking
didn't. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. No offense,
It
Renata.
is so stupid, and this is neocon bullshit. And I remember this as a 2012 liberal. So I remember conservatives who voted for the Bush regime telling me that my opinion didn't matter because I abstained in 2012. And I remember liberals telling me the same thing. So are both of them right? Did everybody's opinion in 2012 matter who voted for Mitt Romney because they were wrong by accident, but they had the right morals? And everybody who voted for Obama, their opinions didn't matter? Like, how does this work? All the Obama's opinions matter? So all the Biden voters, their opinions matter, right? Their opinions matter more than Chris Paul or G-Money. Go subscribe to their fucking podcasts and listen, because the reason it gets me so triggered is because you're full of shit. It's not true, and you don't fucking believe it. Because if you believed the pathway and the marker for whose opinions matter, you would be listening, you would be firing up Kamala Harris podcasts right now. Because whatever the real numbers are, tens of millions of people in this country are voting for who you in chat consider to be the worst people in the world who are destroying our country. Yeah. And you think their opinions matter, and that the people who don't want to participate in their system, that their opinions don't matter. And the last point I put on this is that, again, the strategy, because there is one, between some of the people who choose not to vote, which isn't me, by the way. I just am not an idiot, so I understand why people make the choices they do, because I actually listen to them when they explain themselves instead of struggle sessioning them. But one of the reasons that they make the choice they do is because they think that if an election is stolen that you participated in, you have lost the ability to call it fake. And you may not agree with that. I'm not saying that that's the correct opinion. But if you tell everybody to go out there and vote in the midterms, and then we get the blue wave that they're already conjuring into the ether, what does that mean? And did the people who didn't vote, is it their fault? I mean, there's a lot of nuance to these things, but it's just funny because I've said even in private chats, separate from the voting situation, separate from the voting conversation, with the Iran conversation, I have never felt more like a former liberal in the truth community than I do right now. And being told your opinion doesn't matter if you're not cheering on bomb dropping in the Middle East or voting in elections is such an absurd misread of what the founding of this country was and what sovereignty even means, that more people need to listen to John Drake's No Treason podcast on Sunday nights leading into the narrative. And maybe, you know, a lot of those people who say stuff like that, turns out haven't read anything the founding fathers have wrote, because a lot of these guys had very similar opinions.
It's funny because I agree with you that like I've never not voted, and I'm probably going to vote again. Don't tell Chris Paul, but I understand that they're fake, and I do not like the people that are saying they're not going to vote. Like, that is a much more principled thing, in my opinion, than voting to perpetuate the system. It's so stupid. If you don't vote, you don't complain. Retarded. We're not a four. Like, I don't even know why you watch the show. Like, that is the opposite of everything Trump is trying to teach you. and teach everybody. And the people saying like, oh, Trump, you know, he just really wants to pass the Save America Act. No, does he really though? Do you really think he wants to do that? Because I'm pretty sure he just rug pulled that shit. It's also whatever. Let's move on from this because I can already. We're gonna have this argument a bajillion more times leading up to the midterms,
which is fine. The problem is that people are trying to stop the conversations from happening, which is not something we're going to do.
No, yeah. Well, I'm trying to stop it right now because I want to go to bed. But
yeah,
I will never not stop. That's I got a text today from somebody within like a Badlander who got mad at something other Badlanders said. It just reminded me of like the reason Badlands exists. What are, you know, we believe in the highly frictional stuff. There's nothing off limits. This is about open debate and discussion and everything. We will never tell somebody what they can and cannot say. We will never bully somebody into not saying something just because we don't like what they say. There are so many things that other people on Badlands say that I disagree with and don't like, but I've never once said they aren't allowed to say it on Badlands. And that's going to continue. That's going to continue on our shows. That's going to continue in our chats and everywhere. As long as it's good faith, that's the one thing. Like if you come in and troll and hate and just be a dumbass, we're not going to put up with that shit. But we are for anybody who wants a earnest, honest, open debate about anything, whether you agree with us or not. That's what it's all about. Yeah. That the friction is how you get the progress, in my opinion. And we're going to keep pushing for that.
And if you can't take it, then just get out. And again, the can't take it doesn't mean you don't agree with us. It's the exact opposite. If you can't take the fact that you don't agree with people here,
that's what it is. It's not that.
That's what happens.
The people who can't take it are the ones who. It's such a weird. It's such a weird thing, because it's not just the disagreement. They're not okay with that, but it's like. It's
stop talking about
it. Stop talking about our disagreement. Yeah, it's so weird.
Chris Paul has been subjected to more struggle sessions by people at Badlands Media and who follow and support Badlands Media than anybody outside of Badlands Media. Not because they disagree with Chris Paul, but because they do not think he should be allowed to say the things that he says. And, you know, it's absurd. And I genuinely, I say I'm not surprised by many things in the InfoWar, but it shocks me. It absolutely shocks me that people have that view. Yeah. You know, when it should be just if you think it's a ridiculous stance, then it shouldn't even bother you. And I guess I'd make another argument that if you think that somebody like that has a very dangerous stance and that they're going to convince everybody in the movement to adopt their stance, then the movement's pretty stupid in your opinion, right? Like maybe they don't deserve all that freedom if G Money is going to convince everybody that voting is gay. Then it's like, okay, well, I guess that the plan is over then. G Money ruined it. It was going so good until he came around.
That guy, he's just like living it up with his son. And
I was trying to, now that I have a son, I was like, man,
that's the
imagine
dream.
G being dad. Yeah. That's like, that's the dad you want, and that's the son you want.
Yeah, but then you think about that again, and you're like, wait. I went wrong somewhere.
Yeah. I don't want to know, how all the logistics work.
Let's just move on. We should read rants and get out of here. I was up so early this morning.
All the rants were withdrawn.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. People actually like this. You know, people in Nashville, I'm sure. It's always a good reminder. By the way, badlandsmedia.tv/events for your tickets for Nashville. Tomorrow, forgot to mention, 2 p.m. Eastern will be the first exclusive live stream for GART Nashville ticket holders. That's virtual or in person. Virtual, I think, are $5 off right now for a limited time. If you want to grab those, the early bird special. I don't know if I'll make it onto that stream, but there'll be a stream every week leading up to the event. Right? That is tomorrow, 2 p.m.
Awesome.
So you'll get an email with the link about an hour before that stream. A bunch of Badlanders will be on that. And you got a smaller chat in there, more exclusive. And one of the funnest things about the GARTs is the Telegram chats that start bumping. So that'll be fun. But anyway, I was just going to say that one of the really great things that we always say about the GARTs is actually about this kind of a subject. these contentious topics obviously come up at GARTs. Sometimes things get heated, sometimes they don't. But either way, it's a great reminder for me anyway of like the real temperature of the audience, because I even know that most of the people in chat, they don't even necessarily have to agree with us, but they like the conversation. There's always like 2 people that just freak out the whole time. And when you're at a GART, you realize that very, very few people, if any, go to something like that because they want their feelings to be protected. The people who seek out gatherings like that, when they say like-minded patriots, it doesn't mean patriots who agree with them. It's like, this is a safe place where I can engage in unsafe conversations. And that's the best part about it.
Yeah, and so like people like Renata Ford, you come to a GART, maybe you have in the past, but then we meet you and it turns out you're a really sweet lady and I get to tell you you're wrong to your face, and it's just much more enjoyable for everybody involved.
Right.
Also, we're not going to rug pull you by like saying we have a big guest and that guest not show up. It's just whoever's on our website as the speakers, it's all Badlanders. It's who it is. It's who it always will be.
Get rugged by some of them.
Yeah, I think
rug us.
Shipwreck agreed to come, and then her logistics changed, but she said she'll be at Deadwood hopefully. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we got a big crew this time. This might be the biggest, like where almost everybody's coming. It's gonna be a good time.
So we'll all be on half of one panel.
Yeah, and something like that.
Perfect.
No, but all the real panel discussions happen at the bar.
That's true.
Afterwards,
I expect
or during.
that Nashville should have like a good drink scene.
I think so too, but we're not like it's not like fully downtown. It's on a college campus, I think. So it's
nice. G will be in his glory,
in his element, for sure. All right. Okay, read the boosts. I'm gonna find this now, Joe.
Boost. We got 1027 JS, $20. Hello, guys.
Hey, Joe, my fellow North Dakotan. Thank you.
I don't know if this was 1027 JS said looking forward to tonight's TPH. That was last week. I think we got that. All right, we got some rants. Gin Stock 123, $10. Been watching DPH since the beginning. I'm always grateful. Tuning in from Fairbanks, Alaska.
Oh man, that's a long ways to be tuned in from. Thank you.
Internet works the same. They've got just a series of tubes. That's where it's still a series of tubes, I think.
Does it work the same though? Because I know Brad like lost everything internet related for a period.
You basically get one of those tin cans with a string, and you go, "Get me Rumble," and then like 20 minutes later, a squirrel gets the faint echoes of what you might have said, and a squirrel whisperer has to interpret what the squirrel thinks you meant.
A squirrel decoder. I love that.
Yep.
I love that.
Yep. And
this is probably
then they tell you about a podcast that somebody on the other end of the line is watching, translating it to a second squirrel.
I have been wondering, like, at what point, because you know it's coming. Eventually, there's going to be decoders for the decoders. You know, like
I proposed that we started a show about that.
Decoding the decoders. Maybe we should.
We could put Alpha and Josh on a 5-minute delay,
and then we just try to decode what they're saying.
Live stream us, live streaming them.
Oh, that'd be so
and
funny.
Decode their decodes in real time. Like, see where Josh went wrong here.
No, it's not that. It's trying to like. He didn't actually mean this. What he really meant was, that's what a decode is.
That's true.
It's not what the thing actually said. It's the comms that they're leaving for us and what we think it means. Right. And then dude, the content farming here, we could have decoders decoding our show, decoding their show. Like, could you imagine? Like, we just keep going. We should totally do this one time, like Inception decoding.
Yeah.
Like everybody's just on like a 5-minute delay and just decoding everything the other show says.
And one person will earnestly watch that show and be like, "This is amazing. God, this is genius.
This is brilliant." Okay,
we might actually figure everything out that way. Tamarack Flats.
No, I'm serious. We're doing this 1 week, even if it's just for a joke. We're doing it.
We should have somebody write drops.
No, I think the best way to do it is like we tell Alpha and Josh that we're doing it. And then it's just the decode train.
Yeah.
It'd be so much fun.
Decode centipede, human decode centipede.
Yeah.
Get a little weird. Tamarack Flats, tipped via Rumble Wallet. Thank you, Tamarack Flats.
Thank you, Tamarack Flats.
Red-pilled American, Iran has been a proxy and playground for the CIA and Mossad since the 70s color revolution in which they orchestrated. Israel controls Iran and the CIA, Mossad, MK-Ultra, the terror orgs to keep the money flowing. Israel sent planes out for recon cleanup when we struck their nuke sites. DJT is ending. Mossad, CIA, terror cells, and Israel is done. King for last. Read Protocols of the Elders of Zion. It's one possible reading of things. But,
It is one. Oh my gosh,
Edgar
Alpha's actually in
Friendly.
the chat. That's so funny.
That's because he heard our decodes. Edgar Friendly says, President Trump is John Spartan from Demolition Man. Man, I haven't seen Demolition Man since I was a kid.
You also, who did you equate Trump to being earlier?
Captain Kirk.
Yeah, but what about Batman then?
Yeah, he can be both.
Can he though? Is that what bicameral means?
Mm-hmm. You are both Donald Trump. You are both James T. Kirk and Bruce Wayne at the same time.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Nailed it.
And then had some explainers there of how they're the same. I'll have to look at that. Sent an AI thing. A little too long to read. Team Smooth, my tip for the friction jar. Nice.
Thank you. Love me some friction.
Mrs. Real Freedom Fighter. Thank you. Great show. I just listen. And you send Rumble Rants. Thank you.
It doesn't. It's not Mrs. Real. It's Rhea.
Oh, that's one. That's
Missing a letter. Yeah. I think
final
she's coming to
demand.
guard. By the way, Boom Diggity made a comment in the chat, which I love. Good to see you, Boom. I vote. I do not jab, and I am not mad at anyone who votes or does not vote. People got to understand saying that everyone must vote is fascist. Choice is a must.
People fixing to turn me back into a liberal.
We can start calling everybody fascists who's like, you have to do this. I think that's how we defeat them. Because that's my point. Is like, no, the sovereign person does not have to do anything.
Being
and I'm
American
a stubborn asshole.
Means being sovereign.
Stop telling me what I have to do. I might do the thing you want me to do, but I will do so because I have the choice to do so, not because you say I have to. Fuck that.
And again, like if you go too far down that rabbit hole, which is a lot of the stuff Jonathan Drake talks about on his podcast, and that many of the founders talked about before and after the codification of the Constitution, if you are really, really literal about the election thing, which is the bigger conversation that Chris has been talking about for years that we need to get to in the future, you are de facto kind of taking on that not just fascist mentality, but you're starting to sort of codify the belief that our rights come from the state, which is not where they come from. They don't even come from the Constitution, actually. They come from God, and they are sovereign, and they are innate. But, you know, a lot of people have forgotten that. The final demand, BB has inspired me to vote. I will take my ballot into the booth and draw a huge veiny penis on my ballot with a Sharpie and put that in the ballot box.
This is a good idea.
We should to look at it.
We should do a write-in penis campaign.
Like, oh my God, that's the 5th one in a row.
Could you imagine CNN reporting on that? Somehow, like a veiny penis won the election in Cobb County.
Now, we know you've seen a lot of them in your day, Jan. Can you describe it to us? What did it look like? About a half chub, John. It's nothing I can't handle.
Okay, you've taken it too far. Stop.
I heard the baseball team ran train on you, Jan.
Is that from a movie?
No, I'm just making it up.
Okay.
This is how I entertain myself.
I do love. We should do the outro of the penises from whatever that movie is.
I think subconsciously I was thinking of those segments from Family Guy with the two reporters who hate each other.
Oh yeah.
Here they get the guy and the girl. He's probably had one like that. I bet somebody will find one.
I'm sure. What's the movie?
You're a real whore. I think he has one where he
super
says
bad.
that.
Is it super bad? What's the movie with where he when I was growing up? I could stop
we used to draw dicks.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was super bad. Jonah Hill.
Oh, so funny.
That's such a great movie.
So
all right,
good.
the Alpha Warrior Show. In case you're watching, JB, USS Liberty, who did it? Yep. Another one of our fun family disagreements. And said, make it come full circle to where it comes back to me and Josh, and we call ourselves out as being wrong in the original decode. I'm on board with that.
Oh, see, that's the thing. We
Then
start
we'll
with one.
decode their decodes of themselves.
That's what's funny. We start with one story, okay, and 5 minutes on a delay is two people decoding Alpha and Josh decoding whatever story, and then 5 minute delay another group, and then once they're done decoding their story, they just go to the final group, and so it's a circle of decoding. People trying to figure out what everybody's saying. Dude, this is brilliant.
Weekend update. Oh, we should do this as an outro. I've got a 2-minute outro we can play.
Well, I was just gonna look up the pictures of dicks.
This
Super
must
bad.
have been in my head. That is so funny.
You found it? Okay, we'll do your outro.
Yeah, it's Dan Aykroyd.
I've done mine before. All right. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. Hit that thumbs up. I will be back on tomorrow on the Daily Herald, 1 p.m. Eastern. I'll be back to that show. So I actually have to catch up on whatever's happening in the world. Try to do that tomorrow. But it should be a fun one. Probably engage with you guys in the chat mostly. So make sure you tune into that. And I don't know what
Spaghetti. You guys have played lots of dick clips.
we tend to do that around here.
Yeah. Mrs. Bright's watch, I noticed she didn't announce this, but she just started doing it. Just happens organically. She seems to be in her 11th rewatch of The Office.
Nice.
Like the first couple days, I don't usually pick up on the trend. I'm like, oh, The Office is on. And then I'll kind of walk back through the kitchen and I'm like, huh, that's funny. The Office is on. Must be doing a marathon today. And then a couple days later, I'm like, wait a second. She's intentionally watching this again.
It's not a bad thing. That's like, you are a sane individual when you can just keep that on in the background. Like that is a normal thing. You should start to worry once she starts having every episode memorized, when you can start predicting things as they're coming.
She probably does. She's seen that show many times.
Yeah, I'm there.
I'd much rather her do that than Friends. She used to watch Friends a lot, and she kind of graduated beyond that, and she's into The Office.
I can't get into any show like The Office where I watch it on repeat. There are some shows I can come back to, after a year or so and watch a little bit of it. But The Office, when it got taken off of Netflix or whatever,
yeah,
it's the longest I went without watching it because I didn't have Peacock. But now I have Peacock again. Yeah. But anyway. All right, well, let's watch your outro video. All right. Night, everybody.
I'm station manager Dan Aykroyd. During the past few weeks in Los Angeles, actor Lee Marvin and his former live-in companion Michelle Triola Marvin have been in court to settle her claim